Hi everyone, it's Delizia from Delizia Naturally here today. I'm going to show you how I render the sheep tallow for the third time. So I've taken the bucket out of the fridge. It's quite heavy and you can see the how clear that water is from the fat. So what I'll do is I'll need to angle the camera downwards so you can see at the sink what I'm doing. So let's have a look now. And this has been this is a result of the second time of render. As you can see, it is beautiful and clean and white and just clear of any impurities. At this point, many people would use that for soap, as would I, but I like to, for good measure, as you know, render it 3 times. So I'm going to take it out and show you how I finish preparing it for the 3rd time. Now, because it's so clean, this spatula is just going around the perimeter of this bucket so easily. It's almost like I don't even need it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the plug in of the sink so you can see the colour of the water when I remove it. So where is my plug? Here we go. Put the plug in, remove the sink strainer. Okay, so what I've got here is just a baking rack. So I'm going to straddle that over the sink and then just pour this over the top. It should remove easily. And it has. So see there how you can see those little impurities just on the top there. So look at the water underneath. It's not too bad, the water. I'll angle the camera down slightly so you can see a little bit better. That water. So it's not that bad actually. It's quite clear. Okay, so for good measure now, what I'm going to do is these impurities on the top here, I'll just scrape those off because I don't want those to be in my soap or in my creams, to be honest. So like I said, some people would scrape off these impurities at this point. It's only a little bit, so I'm just going to put them on the lid here of the bucket. A lot of people would use the tallow at this point for soap, and that's absolutely fine because it is clean enough, purified enough, yeah, and ready to go. But because I like to do things especially clean, I'm going to do this one more time with the water, just slowly to melt it, and then I'll put it in the bucket again to set, and then once that's done, I will use it. At this point, what I could do is just run a little bit of water over the top, just to make sure all of those impurities are removed. So this is a sheep tallow. I do the same process with any other tallow that I'm using. You know, render it first time with the solids, separate the solids, and then after that 3 more times. So now what I do is I put this into this stainless steel bowl over here with a little bit more water, and we will put it on the stove. And so I'm doing this inside. You can see on the top there, absolutely no impurities. So I'll just put it in my stainless steel. So I'm going to put a little bit more water, and in fact I collected some rainwater from the rain that we've had the last few days in New South Wales here. We've had a lot of rain. So that's probably just about half a bucket, so about 1 litre. As you can see, that's just mixed with the fat. Melt that down. Same process in the bucket, in the fridge, and then when it hardens, I'll release it. And what I might even do is I might even make a batch of soap so you can see how that's done. So I've just put the fat on a very, very low heat on the gas. As you can see, that's the disc of fat and that's the water. So once that's all melted, then we'll pour it back in the bucket, let it cool, let it separate, and then for Delizia Naturally purposes, it's ready to use. Everyone, I just wanted to show you halfway through the melting. So you can still see that the fat is that beautiful lemon colour. and it's just got some water with it, which is completely fine. So it's slowly melting. Just a reminder, put it on very low heat so that you don't heat the tallow too quickly and potentially, and I'm not sure about this, but potentially ruin the benefits in the acid profile of the fat. So I just do it on a very low heat when it's mixed with water. When I actually melt it for use in soap or cosmetics in the cream that I make, once it's a solid fat and it doesn't have any water in it, I do it on a double boiler just to be extra careful. I do treat the fat like it's precious and special because it came from an animal, and that's just how I like to respect the fat. So I don't like to waste any of it. So this is the fat melting. I've just turned the heat off because it's only a little disc of fat remaining, and it will probably melt with the residual heat. So I'm just going to continue to stir it. As you can see, it's that beautiful lemon colour, which is the sheep fat, courtesy of Box Gum Grazing, who also sell Delizia Naturally soap, just so you know. So these, you can really see in the product, now that this fat is melting, you can see how well those sheep are treated. They live on a regenerative farm in Maringo, New South Wales, have a really good life until obviously their life is taken from them. But that's why we respect everything, nose to tail. We eat the whole beast, and we even make soap and cosmetics out of the fat of the animals. I've just taken the sheep fat off the stove, so that's fully melted through, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is now just pour it into the bucket. I'll show you how to do that. You need to be careful because this oil or fat, sheep fat, is very hot. So if you have children around, just make sure that you make safe. Anyway, I'll show you how I pour it into the bucket. So that's the third time I have rendered this sheep fat. So now for me, it is ready to use for soap and cosmetic products after it has hardened, because just an important point to note, that is still the sheep fat mixed with water, because I've just rendered it with the water. So it needs to be poured into a bucket. It will separate, harden, and then I will take the fat off the top, make sure all the water is evaporated, and then be able to use it. So I'll just show you how I'll pour it into the bucket. Now, excuse my kitchen. I have a very small kitchen. It's functional, and I'm blessed, and I'm very happy that I have a kitchen, but it's just a little bit pokey. Anyway. Okay, so here I am. I'm about to pour this fat into here. Now, what I've done, just a couple of safety things. This is higher than the bucket, which means that as I pour it, I'm using gravity to help me pour it into the bucket, so there's less risk of it going everywhere. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a towel and I'm going to put it into the sink. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I spill the fat, there is no way that I want that to go down my sink. I'd like it to be caught in the towel. The other thing that I could do is put a bowl under this bucket. I kind of overshoot the bucket and the fat drips that. So I'm just going to pour it. You can see that it's translucent because it's the fat mixed with the water. That should all fit in there. And that last remainder was probably all water, but that's quite all right, because I'm very careful about, anyways, I'm getting all those last bits of the fat out. And it didn't spill a drop. Lucky me. So there we have it. So I'll put the lid on that, and then I'll put it in the fridge, which will be ready to go. So I'll do that now. Hi viewers, it's Delizia here from Delizia Naturally. So my render has cooled. enough so that we can turn it out and see how it looks. So I'm going to do that now. I'll just angle the camera downward so you can see what that looks like. So after I tip this out, I will now use this to make soap or facial and body moisturizer. Sheep fat. So we'll just take the lid off. So this has just been in the fridge overnight. As you can see, very, very clean. So I'm just going to use this spatula to go around the bucket just to release it. And it's releasing very easily, which means that it's very clean. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tip it out onto this like cooling rack, and we'll see how it comes out. And I've just got the sink open there so that the water can run. People do this all different ways. This is just the way that I like to do it. Okay, so the water's run out. And as you can see, well, I hope you can see, there is not much impurity at all. So there's a couple of little specks. That's probably from the rainwater, because I use rainwater this time rather than just water from the tap. So it's going to have those little dots. And I'm just going to scrape that there. So I almost don't need it to scrape it even. And that's why I like to do it 3 times, because it is so clean. I hardly ever have to, I don't like having to clean a large amount of impurities off and then store it. I'd like it to be clean when I tip it out like that. Okay, so that's ready. There's nothing else I need to do to this. I can store this. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. It's happy there, just so the rest of the water can drain off. When I stir it, I'd like there to be the least amount of water as possible, and just for it to be pure sheep fat. So what I'll do is I'm just going to tip it over. There we go. And I'm going to leave that there for maybe an hour or so. It's not too warm where I am in Queanbeyan, New South Wales. It's probably about 19, 20 degrees. So it's not like it's going to melt. If it went above, 25, it would melt. But it's quite all right like this. So I'll just let that water evaporate. And then once that's done, I will cut it up and then weigh it and then store it in containers and put them in the freezer. I will make a batch of soap for you to see. But this is the beautiful triple rendered, very clean sheep tallow, ready for use in soap and moisturizer for Delizia Naturally. I'm just going to show you how I store my tallow. So now the tallow, which I'll show you here, the water has fully evaporated. This is it. And it is just a beautiful piece of sheep tallow now, triple rendered, beautiful and clean. And I'm going to cut it and store it in a variety, or in these buckets here. Some people store their tallow, especially if they use it for cooking, they store it in glass jars, which is great because it means that when you're going to use it for cooking, you take the lid off, put the glass jar in the microwave to melt the tallow, or you can put it in a double boiler and use it that way. The reason I use these old yogurt buckets or something that is of that grade plastic is so that I can put it in the freezer, and I store the fat in the freezer at this stage so that it's ready for soap or for cosmetics that I'm going to make. So I'll just show you how I weigh it. So I have a larger scale here. A household scale or a kitchen scale works fine. I just do this because I sometimes make a lot of fat. So it should cut quite easily. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So you can see just the purity of that tallow. It is just extremely clean and pure, and there's no impurities in that whatsoever. I'm going to just swap to this knife now, I think. So that's almost a kilo. So this is just basically what I do. I cut it into chunks. And then what I'll do is I will write on this bucket how much is in there, so that when I go to make soap or cosmetics, I know exactly. I don't have to weigh it again. And I think at the very beginning of the video, I mentioned weighing it at the end. So I can tell you what the yield will be at the very end also. So if it's over 1 or 2 grams, that is okay, because what I actually allow for is any remnants of fat that stays in the bucket when I've emptied it to use it for soap and cosmetics. So that's a kilo there. So the next one. It's just, I think it's such a beautiful product. It's grass-fed tallow. And what's interesting is when it's cooled, it is this beautiful opaque white, as you can see. When heat is generated, or sorry, when it's put on the heat, it will go a lemon color because of the grass-fed nature of the animal. So it'll come out, which is amazing. Okay, so that's 300 grams, so we're still going. I don't think you can see the scales, but that's okay, because really I just want to see you to see me cutting it. It is just a beautiful product. And you know that there's a lot of work that goes into this to triple render. So essentially it's cooked 4 times. The first time to remove the mince, and then the 3 times after that to remove impurities. So it's a wonder why the tallow soap ends up being $8 a bar. There's a lot of work. That's even before I start making the soap. So this tallow is actually perfect for cooking also. You can cook with this as an oil, as a fat, how they used to cook actually before the Industrial Revolution. So